All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the multiplicative property of equality. In this section, you're going to learn how to use the multiplicative property to solve linear equations, and then how to use both properties of equality to solve equations. So assume that you and a friend start off with 5 apples each, and then you're given 5 apples each day for a week. Okay, so you start off with 5 apples, and you get 5 apples for 7 days, so 5 times 7 means you have 35 apples. And that means that your friend also has 35 apples. This is the idea of the multiplicative property of equality. Okay, if we multiply or divide an equation by the same number, we don't change the solution. And when we're trying to get x by itself, we want to multiply by the reciprocal. We want to multiply by the fraction flipped over, like we talked about before. So here, let's try to solve this using the multiplicative property of equality. We've got 5 halves, x is equal to 15. Well, to solve this, to get x by itself, we always want to multiply by the reciprocal if we have a fraction, or just divide by the number if it's a number. Well, here we have a fraction, and so we want to multiply by the reciprocal. We're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 2/5. And remember that we can always write a whole number, like 15, as 15 over 1. And so now we can multiply. 2 times 5 is 10, 5 times 2 is 10, and so we get 10 over 10, or all of these just cancel out, and we're left with just x. Remember that multiplying by the reciprocal will give you 1. That's the point here. So now on the right-hand side, we got 15 times 2, which is 30, and 1 times 5, which is 5, and 30 divided by 5 is just 6. And so we get x equals 6. Let's try another example. 6x is equal to 30. Now, the reciprocal of 6 is 1 over 6, and technically we could multiply both sides by 1 over 6. But it's just as easy to think about this problem as division. So we're going to divide both sides by 6. If we divide both sides by 6, 6 divided by 6 is 1, and we're left with 1x. And 30 divided by 6 is 5. Similar thing here, just remember that if you divide by a negative number, you have to consider the signs. So we have negative 3x is equal to 39. To solve this, we want to get x by itself, so we're going to divide by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is just 1. And you're left with 1x equals negative 13. Remember, when you divide a positive and a negative number, you get a negative answer. And so finally, here we have y over 7 is equal to 20. Now, when you're dealing with numbers or variables divided by numbers like this, it's sometimes easier just to rewrite this as 1 over 7 times y equals 20. Because y times 1 is just y, and you still get y over 7. But now the reciprocal here is much more clear, and you can recognize that if we want to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1 over 7, we're going to multiply by 7 over 1. 7 over 1 times 1 over 7, those all cancel, and we're left with y. And 20 times 7 is just 140. Remember that we can always go back in these equations and check our answers. So we started off with y over 7 is equal to 20. If we replace y with 140, well, 140 divided by 7 is equal to 20. And it works out. So we know we got the right answer. So you can use both properties to solve equations. The process is still very similar. Start by distributing and combining like terms on each side of the equation. We want to move x's to one side and numbers to the other. That's part of the additive property. And then finally, once we've done that, we want to multiply or divide to get x by itself. And there we're going to use the multiplicative property. So now we want to solve this equation using both properties of equality. Here we have 7x minus 3 is equal to 5x plus 9. Now there are no parentheses or anything to distribute, and there are no like terms on either side, so we want to start this problem by just moving x's to one side and numbers to the other. We're going to use that additive property of equality. So it doesn't matter which way you move, but let's just start by subtracting 5x from both sides. Now we're moving the x's to the left-hand side because 5x minus 5x is equal to 0. 7x minus 5x, well now we have 2x. Minus 3 is equal to 9. Now we want to get numbers on the other side, and so we'll just add 3 to both sides. And you're left with 2x equals 12. And now finally, to get x by itself, we just divide by 2, or multiply by the reciprocal, which is essentially just dividing by 2. 2 divided by 2 is just 1. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Remember, you can always go back to the original problem and check this. Here we've got another example. This time we do have something that we have to distribute. 4 times 3x minus 2 is equal to negative 1 plus 4. On the left-hand side, we distribute the 4. 4 times 3x is 12x minus 8. On the right-hand side, we can combine those two numbers. So negative 1 plus 4 is positive 3. Now we use that additive property. We've got only x's on the left-hand side. We want to move numbers to the right-hand side. And so we're going to add 8 to both sides. And so 12x is equal to 11. And then finally, to get x by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 12. 12 divided by 12 is 1, and we're left with 1x equals 11 over 12. All right, so for our next example, now we have some like terms we need to combine. On the left-hand side, we have x minus 6x. Well, this is 1x minus 6x. Then 1x minus 6x is going to give us minus 5x. On the right-hand side, we can't do anything with negative 13. But now we have x minus 3x. Well, 1x minus 3x is just going to be negative 2x. So now we need to get x's on one side, numbers on the other. So let's add 2x to both sides. Plus 2x plus 2x. Negative 5x plus 2x is negative 3x. And that's equal to negative 13. And then to get x by itself, we just divide by negative 3. And so x equals positive 13 over 3. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to solve equations using the multiplicative property of equality. And you should be able to solve equations using both properties of equality.